of removing these explosives, people are left bleeding to death and dying. This was a very real situation. I know now, as we have all heard since, that the new story that comes out from the ATF and the FBI is that these were nothing but training devices. Most absolutely ludicrous excuse that if anyone believes that, they're overlooking the very simple and obvious fact that experts went into that building, experts removed police, fire, and civilian rescuers and moved them blocks away while they endeavored to remove all of these explosive devices. Dick Miller told me that the 1030, we'll call it bomb scare, was related to a 2 foot by 2 foot by 2 foot box marked high explosives. In a subsequent interview with another reporter, he explained that he watched the bomb squad haul that off, load that up and haul it off, and what it was percussion caps. And these are percussion caps that are used for C4. I have speculated early that the ATF, Secret Service, and DEA was likely storing explosives illegally in the building in their arsenal rooms. Sure enough, as time goes by, witnesses come forward, I have discovered that indeed the DEA and the ATF had arsenal rooms on the 9th floor. I have obtained photographs of the ATF arsenal room. I have 4 different live witnesses on tape who have said that they watched the ATF unload their arsenal room 2 weeks after the blast. They helped them load different devices, firearms of every firearm known to man, hundreds of thousands of rounds of ammunition, explosives, boxes marked explosives, tow missiles, hand grenades, just about everything short of a T-72 Russian tank was in that building. But the most important thing is that they were storing devices that were high explosives that did not belong in a public building.
April the 19th was the second-year anniversary of the Waco incident. Was this a significant date for the ATF? Did they have prior knowledge of a bomb threat? How many of them were in the Alfred P. Murrah building at the time of the explosion? Pat Briley, a freelance writer from Edmond, Oklahoma, has gathered numerous journalistic accounts of the bombing in Oklahoma City.
The U.S. Marshals in March of '95, March 22nd, were put on full heightened alert nationwide at all federal buildings and all federal courthouses by their director, Mr. Gonzalez, because they had received threats that they considered credible enough to consume the manpower of the U.S. Marshals nationwide to be on the lookout for bombings by Arab terrorist fundamentalists in retaliation over the World Trade Center bombing trial. This alert was had to be approved by Janet Reno, who's over the U.S. Marshals, and the intelligence that led to that alert had to be available to her as well. And we can't imagine that if the U.S. Marshals had put everybody on alert like that within their forces, that the FBI and the ATF didn't know about it.
And this was covered on the
Right. This alert that I'm referring to was reported at length. And this memo, there was a memo on this as well issued by the U.S. Marshals, and it was quoted at length in an article in the Star-Ledger newspaper.
The New Jersey Star-Ledger reported that United States law enforcement authorities obtained information that Islamic terrorists could have been planning suicide attacks against federal courthouses and government installations in the United States. The disclosure was made in a confidential memorandum issued by the United States Marshals Service in Washington, which called for stepped-up security at federal facilities throughout the nation.
As citizens of the United States, we have a right to know what's going on in our world. If we'd have known, I have talked to several people that they had had bomb threats for 2 weeks prior to this bomb. The FBI and the ATF knew that these bomb threats were real, and they did nothing about it.
Michael Hinton, a resident of the YMCA building across from the Murrah building, could have been another tragic victim had he not rushed to catch a bus a few blocks from the blast.
And looking out my window in the afternoon, it's about between 1:30 and 2 o'clock, I noticed a large gathering of people outside the building. Well, it's about 200 to 300 people. And when I looked at these folks, I said, well, what could be going on with the federal building?
Right. Did you think that this could have been a bomb threat or a fire drill?
Initially, there was several questions came to my mind what it could have been, but at that time, like I said, I had no idea.
Did you notice any extra precautions being taken at the federal building during the week on or before the day of the bombing?
An interesting observation I did notice, on the morning of the bomb explosion, the TV networks locally were carrying the statement that the federal building had received a bomb threat 1 week prior to that morning of the bomb explosion. So in my mind, when I heard that, I'm saying, well, what I observed 1 week earlier out my window, could that have been what was going on then? And then the next question came, if so, what security precautions had been taken if they knew this?
Do you know anything about fire or bomb threats at the federal building?
Well, that's a pretty interesting question. The day of the bombing on April 19th, when we finally ended up at Children's Hospital where we were waiting to hear news about our grandsons, Chase and Colton, I had two separate people come up to me. There was a waiting room where all the parents and relatives were waiting. And they put their arms on my shoulder and they asked me, they said, did you know they had a bomb threat in the building last week? And each time, or the first time, I asked my wife, who was standing close to me, if she had heard about that, which she hadn't, and she asked our daughter Edie, and she didn't know anything about it. And at the time, you know, I just it slipped on out of my, I didn't think any more about it a great deal. And then as a few days went by, we started hearing more talk about bomb threats that the federal building had had in the week before, and even the morning before, and even the day before. It became almost indistinguishable. Did they have bomb threats the week before, the day before, or did they have them all a week before and the day before? And one interesting thing that grew out of that is that I heard a rumor that a gentleman whose wife was in the building and had fallen 3 or 4 stories into the basement area, had ran up to an ATF agent the morning of the bombing. He was looking for his wife frantically, and he found an agent, and he grabbed this agent and asked him, you know, what's going on here? You know, can you help me? I need to find an agent that knows my wife and can find her for me. And the agent told him, said, well, that's going to be difficult to do because they received a call this morning, most of the agents did, that there was something going on today and they didn't need to come in. So I don't know if, I'm assuming that maybe that call was prompted by a bomb threat, who knows?